to order, and we will start with our pledge to the flag, and if you can all rise. And I am going to have our national champions of Skill USA and our state scholars, if they can lead us with the pledge.
Go ahead. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Travis? Here. Ives?
Here.
Johnson? Here. Lewandowski?
Here.
Shaw? Navarro?
Here.
Lopez Caniva?
Here. All right, we will start with our resolutions of the Skills USA National Champions.
Good evening, everyone. This resolution is recognizing the accomplishments of the Lockport Township High School Skills USA team. Can I please have Yasmin Alaya, Anthony Fisek, and Emma Oster please come up to the podium? You can look that way. No, you're good. You can just face that way. Okay? Sorry. Okay. Whereas 3 members of the Skills USA team presented their invention virtually at the annual National Leadership and Skills Competition. Whereas Yasmin Alaya, Anthony Fisek, and Emma Oster were awarded the first place gold medal in the Engineering Technology Design Competition for their invention, development, and presentation of the Intruder Stopper, a device designed to quickly and easily prevent an intruder from being able to enter a classroom or office, and being the first Lockport Township High School student or team to win a Skills USA National Gold Medal. Yes. Whereas Yasmin, Anthony, and Emma were aided and guided by Jeff Brown, who is here this evening. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause. Leader of the Engineering Technology Design Team, and Matt Mullins, the Skills USA advisor, and have brought honor and distinction to themselves, their family, school, and community by achieving this respected status. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, that this resolution was adopted on this 19th day of July, 2021. Congratulations, students.
I was reading the article today in the Herald News, and I don't know if you had an opportunity, but there was your picture there, and they had a whole page, almost full-page article on it. And yes, congratulations, and thank you for bringing that national championship to Lockport. And congratulations to Mr. Brown, too.
We are also pleased to introduce and recognize 2 additional LTHS students from the class of 2021 who have been named an Illinois State Scholar, Ranik Jelinek and Maximilian Pabian. Ranik and Maximilian joined the 119 LTHS students designated this year as 2021 Illinois State Scholars by the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. And Ranik is here this evening. I believe Maximilian was unable to make it, so I'd like to invite Ranik up to the podium. Whereas the following student, Ranik Jelinek, has excelled in the state of Illinois academic competition, has been named Illinois State Scholar by the Illinois Student Assistance Commission and thereby have brought honor and distinction to themselves, family, school, and community. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, that Rannick from the class of 2021 is recognized for his outstanding academic achievement in the Illinois State Scholar Competition. Now that this resolution was passed by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, on this 19th day of July 2021. Congratulations again, Rannick.
Congratulations, Rannick. All right, at this point in time, we are going to continue with our board meeting. You are welcome to stay as students here, or you can be excused.
Yeah. Nicely done, parents. Thanks for your support.
Yes, thank you.
Come on, Kevin, stay. Get a,
Yeah, if you're standing, feel free to take these seats. Don't let them go to waste.
Okay, we have no student reports. Do we have this here?
We do.
she's right.
Okay. Fine, thank you.
Back in the bleacher seats.
I am. I'm in the corner. I'm not used to the podium again here, so. Missed you guys last month, but basically, I just want to say on behalf of the membership, I would like to thank you again for the support you've given us in maintaining a safe environment, supporting staff with convenient ways to get vaccinated, and staying committed to helping educators manage providing the best quality of education possible. Last year was probably the most difficult year to be in education. Educators walked away from the school year physically and mentally spent. It's been a summer to simply try to unplug. However, this next school year is going to hold its own challenges that educators are already aware of, and as educators, our focus will be on working to get students back on track and help them stay on track with content and just overall learning skills. So we know that the priority is going to be to reconnect kids, and we understand that we're really in for another tough year, but we are all in to do what it takes to get the kids back on track. So I thank you for the support and continued support this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Okay, IASB Governing Board Report.
There's nothing really coming along until the III in November. I did attend a equity symposium. Interesting, one of the tidbits from that was that when we think of equity, we think of making people equal and inclusion, but they talked about mental health, equity of mental health. We need to make sure that the kids get the resources for the mental health. So, it's my report.
Foundation Board Report, Mr. Ives.
Well, it's July, so it's usually a very quiet time on for the foundation board, but in the activity, 'cause last month we did our big golf outing, but unfortunately last week we got the resignation from Kate Dean, our executive director. She is hasn't only been here a few months, started off great, she's doing a lot of great work, but she got an opportunity that she couldn't pass up, so she's talked to Dr. McBride. So I think this Friday will be her last day. So that search will start again. So, but other than that, there's nothing else to report.
All right, well, thank you. Okay. Legislative report.
Yeah, very briefly, it's been quiet. There are, I don't know how many bills in the House and Senate that passed the House and Senate have not been signed by the governor, so we're waiting. Sometimes what happens with those education bills is after they're passed, 60 days goes by, and there's an expiration on needing the governor's signature, so perhaps that's what's going to happen. So we're waiting. Some of those are the ones that I briefed the board about that include things like extending the age of transition students 2 additional years. And you'll see later in the agenda, we're already doing planning for that law. The state of Illinois had an opportunity to talk about this on Fox News the other day. The state of Illinois was the first state in the union to mandate the teaching of Asian American history. And Governor Pritzker signed that into law on Friday, July 9th as an Asian American parent. Very happy. Just, happy to see that my daughter's history is going to be, part of their curriculum in their lives. So, cool thing. Centers for Disease and Control released on Friday, July 9th, new guidance, updated guidance for schools opening. An interesting thing happened immediately. About an hour later, the Illinois Department of Public Health adopted those as well, which is unusual because last year there was some dissonance between those two organizations, and then I also did an interview about that later in the afternoon as well. So. And we'll obviously be spending a lot of time today talking about that implication. So that's what's going on in Springfield.
Thank you. All right, we have no communications and then no freedom of information. That's all right. Let's see. All right. We have public comments on agenda topics. A designated portion of the board meeting is set aside to hear comments on topics listed on the agenda. A person wishing to speak must sign in and provide all information requested on the sign-in sheet, including the agenda item they will be addressing. The board president will call speakers up by name, announcing their time to comment. A time limit of 5 minutes per speaker per agenda topic will be imposed. The purpose of requesting such information on the sign-in sheet is to obtain the correct spelling of the name of the speaker and contact information, which will be used for necessary board follow-up. And we will start with Ms. Tricia Tabor.
Good evening. My name is Tricia Tabor. I have been a resident of Lockport for almost 18 years now. Both of my daughters have been raised here. They both will be attending LTHS this upcoming school year. I'm hoping that by what I'm saying this evening will not cause issues for my daughters from this point forward at District 205. But as their mother, I need to do what I feel is right and what is in the best interest of my daughters. To say that the last school year and a half has been a roller coaster of a ride is putting it lightly. I appreciate the effort that District 205 has put into keeping learning a top priority. Tonight I'm wanting to speak on behalf of all the parents, faculty, and most importantly, all the students that feel the same way that I do. We believe that it is time to unmask our students. Or at least let it be a parent's or family's choice to keep their children masked or not. Please let's make District 205 optional. A lot of us believe it is unfair and unjust to still have our kids masked in school, when if you really think about it, it doesn't make much sense. It really is no different than groups of people gathering at carnivals such as Canal Days and Homerfest, where literally everyone was on top of each other with hardly any wearing a mask. Or like sporting events where people are sitting elbow to elbow, or any other event that is now open to full capacity with masks being optional. So now that we can go back to doing all these things, the students now have to go back to school, which is a controlled environment with social distancing, with monitor safety issues that are put in place, and you are still wanting us to comply with our kids going back to wearing masks? The CDC and the ISBE has just now set guidelines, not mandates. Guidelines to let vaccinated children come to school unmasked, while the unvaccinated still have to wear one. Again, guidelines, not mandates. Another viewpoint that I would really like for the Board of Education to take into consideration. My children and I have a diagnosed blood clotting deficiency. Our hematologist, who obviously has a medical degree, has advised us getting the COVID vaccine. For us, the risk of getting the vaccine versus not getting the vaccine is higher than any benefits would be. My hematologist has told me that most of her patients that have received the COVID vaccine are now throwing dangerous and life-threatening blood clots. More interestingly is that those patients have not had one blood clot since they started on blood thinners. I am sorry, but with that information and her advisement for my girls and I, we will not even consider getting the COVID vaccine anytime soon. I will not risk my girls throwing a life-threatening blood clot like a pulmonary embolism just because this vaccine is being heavily pushed on everyone. Yes, the chances may be small from developing some of these side effects, but the chance of us getting COVID and becoming deathly ill from COVID are even smaller. So I'd rather take that chance. My point is this. I'm sure there are other students and families in similar situations as us. I'm sure there are other medical conditions that are preventing our other students from being able to receive the COVID vaccine. So on top of these health conditions that these kids have to face on a day-to-day basis that they did not even ask for, are now going to feel even more discriminated against because they now have to be masked. To mandate masks for a student that medically cannot receive the COVID vaccine or any student at all is not right. Don't continue to punish the children with health conditions when they already feel like they are being punished with a lifelong disease as it is. And I can speak from personal experiences. Can you just imagine the issues and problems that District 205 is asking for if you would indeed either one, make the unvaccinated still wear masks, or two, separate the vaccinated from the vaccinated? You will for sure create a great divide. Again, us parents should be making the final decision to mask or not to mask. Let's follow in other district footsteps in making District 205 mask optional, just like many other school districts are doing. We, meaning the families at District 205, have done our part. We as parents and families have done what we have been asked to do. We have socially distanced our children. We have masked our kids even when we didn't want to. And we even insisted in homeschooling our children. Now it's time for District 205 to do what we are asking of you. I understand that you all are in a tough position. You will never be able to make everyone happy, but with giving families the right to choose, you will come close. Let's bring back control to the parents because that's where it truly lies. The COVID vaccine is not a black and white issue. There are many gray areas as well. It is not for everyone. It sure isn't the end-all, be-all. Yes. Okay. With all that being said, how can you make masks mandatory in the district when other schools are not? We all need to remain united across the board. If some schools are mandating and others are not, you have to ask yourself, where and who is following the science? Who is really in control? The parents. The parents need and should be in control in making decisions for our children. I want to thank you for listening to me this evening, and I hope that you take into serious consideration with the things that I had to say. Enough is enough. It is time to unmask our kids. Thank you.
Okay, next we have a Mr. Philip Nagel.
Well, my name is Philip Nagel. Definitely can't compete with that, right? That's powerful. I'm not a resident of this district. My sons don't go to school here. I'm here just because no kid deserves to be masked in Illinois, right? Parents should be able to make a choice for themselves. As we've seen kids go to school and get masked this last year. We've seen some kids, remotely learning. My son, unfortunately, had to live in his room for the last year and a half, which isn't healthy for a kid. I've talked to so many parents that their kids were forced to wear a mask. And psychologically, what does that do to them? I don't think any of us are in a position to really say what it does to them because no one sees the long-term studies of how a mask affects a child, especially a younger child, where there are suggestions where under 7 years old that breathing in their CO2 for an 8-hour period, how does that affect the development of their brain? I mean, no one knows, right? So, we got to look at everything here when it comes to making this type of decision. And, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone on this board, right? So, but, who knows the health of their children better than the actual parents? Nobody does. I've talked to doctors on school boards. I've talked to a plethora of people, right? So, but nobody actually knows what their child's going through. No one knows how to make that decision from, what's better for my child than the parents of the child. And so, I'm not here to make a scene or anything like that. I'm here to actually, implore you guys, make the decision to allow the children's parents to decide what's best for their children this year. As the previous speaker just said, we have kids all over the state right now, right? All of them are all over the state. Talking to other kids, I came from a fair yesterday, and no one had masks on. I come to the school board meeting tonight. I look around, no one has masks on. no one's wearing the mask thing, but if you are concerned, you have the option to wear a mask. And I completely support that. And, I can give you facts that are, debate, you can debate a fact. You can debate, okay, a mask technically has the thread count on a mask is about 1,000 times larger than the actual virus coming through it. So, we have to take a common sense approach to this. We have masks, and if it makes you feel comfortable, by all means wear it. But we can't, if you don't want to, if you're a parent and you don't want to see your kid masked anymore, we have to be able to give the parents that choice to make that decision for themselves. And I seen a post the other day which was really powerful to me. It was really short, and it said it was an 18-year-old that just graduated, and she said, okay, she's like, this last year and a half, I lost 20 pounds, and I was told that I had to sacrifice for the better good of the country, or the better good of the state, country, whatever you want to call it. She said, I didn't sacrifice. She said, I was the sacrifice. And how true is that? We have put an unnecessary burden on these children that was never theirs to carry. It wasn't. It was placed on them through fear. There's a 99.99x% chance of survival, right? So, at what point do we just say, okay, enough's enough? I will tell you this too. There is another variant coming. There's a Delta, and then there'll probably be a Foxtrot, Zulu, Echo, whatever you want to call it, right? They're gonna keep coming. They're not gonna end. We all can see that. We all see that plain and clear, right? They're coming. So I implore you just to look past all the noise in the room and make the decision. And when this next variant comes, okay, great, it came, but the kids are still doing what they do, right? The kids are still here. The kids want to learn. We can't keep putting this on them. It's not fair to them. And it drives me absolutely crazy to walk in and see kids masked while we walk into a board meeting with no masks on. Everyone walks in. Everyone, everywhere. No, there's no masks. I go to Walmart, there's no masks. But then, guess what, son? Once you walk through this door, now the virus is here. So the virus, you can't leave the school. In some states, you can look around the states, right? Some states, COVID tends to stay, behind state lines in certain states around the country, right? So, it has a mind of its own, but it doesn't mean it has to be in the school, right? So I think it's time you guys, we're asking for courage, right? We're asking for courage from all of you guys to stand up and just give us across the state. Like I said, my sons don't go here, and my sons, neither one of them will be masked this year. They're both going to a university that, for the last 6 months, I think, have put out guidance that they're not going to mask the kids. But that's besides the point. It matters because all the kids. I don't want to just send my kids to a university because I can afford to send them. Okay, I can afford to send them to a university, right? I can afford that. Not everyone can. People need the public school district, and how horrible does it feel for all y'all to see the kids walk in match? You can't see their faces no more. How many kids can you say that have a new teacher that teacher doesn't even know what they look like? It's sad. It truly is sad. So we need courage from y'all. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, next we have a Mr. Ryan Johnson.
Love you too. Love you all. I'll spend the first half of my time reading a letter from Awake, Illinois, a letter being shared with hundreds of school districts across the state, and then conclude with my own view. Dear local boards of education, superintendents, and school administrators, given the nature of the COVID-19 pandemic, parents across the nation are asking, will my right to make decisions about what's best for my child's health be respected? As many families in the state of Illinois await word from their school in the 21-22 school year, we hope and pray for prudent discernment in all decisions affecting our children. The represented parties in this letter implore local school boards to survey the whole of their communities as soon as possible on expectations for the coming school year versus a one-size-fits-all approach for all of Illinois. We respect the integrity of our democracy and autonomy of school boards who are elected to work in the best interest of their stakeholders. On behalf of Illinois parents, advocates, and taxpayers, we support Illinoisans' personal and parental rights to make decisions in the best interest of their children regarding facial maskings, viral testing, health records, and/or use of injections. We request that school boards respect that guidance from the CDC, ISBEA, and IDPH does not equate to mandates. Under Title 23 of the Administrative Code, the Illinois State Board of Education is not in a position to force, reward, or threaten any school district or local board of education regarding said agency guidance. That same rule applies to ISBE on any stipulated guidance. As representatives of thousands of Illinois parents and taxpayers, we request that your leadership reflect support of parental consent, civil rights, and all liberties protected by the laws, regulations, and Constitution of Illinois and the USA. Should any school district, personnel, and/or agent enact policies, guidelines, or protocols that are in violation of any law, right, or protection of Illinois students, legal action may be taken. We trust that Illinois school districts and administrators will emulate the leadership of many districts to facilitate a return to normalcy for your students, your staff, and communities after more than a year of sacrifice. Godspeed as you draft and enact the 21-22 school year policies. So more and more school districts in this area have now officially gone to mask optional. There's about 125 schools in all of Illinois now, and I trust this board will make the same correct decision. But this needs to be a real hardline decision. This can't be superficial with the ability to revoke that 2 weeks into the school year if Silver Cross ER says they get a little busier. Or by putting backdoor pressure on certain student groups like athletes. We've seen in other districts the attempt to hold athletes hostage with relentless pressure to vaccinate or else mask up, quarantine, and will make your life hell. So again, I implore a hardline decision, optional. My 14-year-old just went for her physical, and while the doctor asks about vaccination status, is not recommending or pushing it in any way, and a very highly respected pediatrician. There is just not enough long-term effects known yet on this experimental jab, and my children will not be used as test subjects. But it's not just the mask vaccination issue we need to discuss. It's the testing and quarantine discussion we must make sure we don't forget. We heard at the last meeting the school signed a contract with a testing firm for this upcoming year. Like I said last month, let's cancel that contract. The tests are not reliable. The tests are not being used in the way they were designed for, per the confession of the actual inventor, and only 6 people should be getting tested.
Yes.
Then follow the money. Follow the money to see who is profiting off these tests. What does this contract look like? Who vetted the contract? Who's making money on this? Always follow the money and stop testing healthy children. Quarantines. It was confirmed a month ago at this meeting that for the thousands of quarantine cases Lockport had last year, there were 0 cases that came back positive. Again, never in history have we isolated and quarantined healthy children. No more 14 days, no more 10 days, no more different rules for vaccinated versus unvaccinated, no more anything, 0. No more quarantines unless you're sick. It has been proven and confirmed by the WHO there is no such thing as asymptomatic spread for this virus.
Yes.
Children with no symptoms are not spreading this. Test and quarantine sick people only. It doesn't get more common sense than that. Finally, this board talked last time on risk mitigation and liability insurance. Your lawyer should be advising you that your risk is not with the virus, since children have a 99.98% survival rate and almost no cases get traced back to schools. What kind of risk is this from your point of view? They should be advising you that your risk is in the adverse reactions with the vaccine, and the school is taking a very aggressive approach in pushing this vaccine propaganda to the students in almost every formal communication that comes out. Parents aren't taking it anymore. Look at the people showing up here versus a month ago. The middle school board meeting a month ago, which was the day after this one, very fiery with almost 50 parents showing up with many giving amazing, passionate speeches. Thank you. 500 people at an Illinois Patriots rally yesterday at Bengtson's Farm in Homer. A grassroots movement for standing up for freedom and choice in all aspects of life. The momentum of people standing up and fighting back is amazing to see, and this medical tyranny will end. We're seeing it locally. We're seeing it around the world in Australia, France, England, Greece. People are waking up and fighting, so please don't try and stop this. Nothing can stop what is coming.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next we have, I believe it's Ms. Kuza?
Agnieszka Kuza.
I would like to apologize in advance. English is not my first language. I was born and educated in Poland. I came here 24 years ago. I came from the communist country, and I hope I don't have to ever relive the life that I had to live 20 years ago. This is the greatest country ever. I love America ever since I came here. I respect all the people here, all nationalities here. I have worked here for the last 5 years at the private school, working with the very vulnerable population, children with autism and various intellectual disabilities. I would like to say that these kids will not put their masks on, and they will not keep them on for any period of time. And I applauded them from the very beginning. Thank God that they were doing this. I asked my son recently whether he is looking forward to coming back to school. He just is starting sophomore year this year. And he said, "Mom, no." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I don't even know anybody that is in my classroom. I have never seen their faces."
Excuse me, can you take your mask off so I can hear you?
Okay, I'm sorry. I am. The only reason why I'm wearing my masks is out of respect to everybody, because I did not get vaccinated and I am not planning on getting vaccinated. Also, when it comes to... If they want me to get vaccinated, they will have to hold me down, that they can jab me 100 times, but they will have to leave my son alone. Not shot for my son. He is the only child that I have, and I will do anything for him. I will jump in fire, jab me, like I said 100 times, leave him alone. He's got his whole life ahead of him. So with this being said, I'm not gonna stand here and just babble on and on, but I would like to, I'm hoping that you guys are not gonna separate the students by maskers and the unmasked in the school. I don't want the kids to feel disrespected and disdain and all kinds of awful words, you know? I don't want other kids to be pointing the ones who are unvaccinated and saying, "You know what, you need to get vaccinated because you are the reason why we all gonna be getting sick." So I'm just hoping that the school that you guys have enough in you to be courageous and just treat everybody the same way. So that's all I've got to say. I'm just looking forward to the great year for my son and all the kids here at the Lockport. Like I said, a lot of the private schools have been opened and they are just doing great. A lot of the schools who teach disabled kids, they've been doing great as well. So it's time for Lockport High School to be reopened fully, and the kids come to school, sit in those desks, and that they get the educations that they deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kusa. Next, we have Mr. James Shake.
Wow, that was good, right? Yeah. Awesome. Unbelievable. So, I'm not a professional public speaker. I'm just a parent, and my kid goes to school here. All these people you see here, most of these people aren't public speakers, okay? But they're doing this because, number one, we're concerned about our kids, okay? So, my main concern is, I understand that the superintendent is going to recommend to the board that masks won't be mandatory. So I'm hoping that you consider that. I have a child who is a junior. Pulling him out of school is not an option because he is all AP classes. He was recently very upset that his GPA went down to a 4.3. So he's trying really hard to do his best. And it would be really irresponsible of me to try to pull him out of school because he just a little personal thing. He had a really bad skull fracture when he was younger. So whenever he has headaches, you can understand that we're really concerned. I mean, that's a scary thing when a kid like that gets a headache. So when he started wearing the mask, he come home with severe headaches. So we got an exemption for him. He wore the shield. So, right, so he would go to the hybrid, so he was only going, a couple days a week or whatever. Well, he started getting headaches with the shield too, which is concerning. So I don't know the science behind that. I don't know if it's the strap around his head or if he's getting, CO2 levels, higher. He's also got asthma. Other than that, he's great. But it's just, we're just really concerned about our kids, and that's why we're here. I've never done this before. My first meeting was 33C, and I understand that they won't mandate the mask there, so I'm really happy about that, because I did pull my kid out of school for that. And we did homeschool all last year, and I think he's really sad and wants to go back, to hang out with his friends and whatnot. So, but I think we've all seen some of the studies that have come out recently. Did you all see the Journal of American Medicine study about the CO2 levels? So, right? So we saw that study. It just came out, and the study was done in Germany. Here's the bottom line. If masks are going to be mandated here, what I need you to do is I need you to please tell me what you're going to do to mitigate the chance of hypercapnia in our children. How are we going to prevent the elevated CO2 levels if masks are mandated? Will there be daily testing to each student, access to oxygen levels versus the CO2 in their bloodstream? I mean, I've also attached the links to some of these studies here if you want to go and take a look at them. There's an OSHA study in here talking about elevated CO2 levels. The study that was done in Germany showed that the elevated CO2 levels in kids were sometimes as high as 5 times the normal acceptable limit. It also can cause confusion, headaches, lack of concentration. So my main thing is, if you're going to mandate the masks, I need to know, again, what the mitigation strategy will be for the hypercapnia, as it is more likely than COVID-19 to harm my kid. I mean, my kid is more likely to get harmed by hypercapnia than he is to get harmed by COVID-19. I mean, he has a better chance of dying from getting struck by lightning while simultaneously getting eaten by a shark than getting COVID-19 and dying from that, right? So that's really all I have, and I implore you guys to understand that these people here, they're not conspiracy theorists, they're not anti-vaxxers, they're not crazy. We're just concerned about our kids, really. Okay, so thank you.
All right, next we have a Miss Patty Colwell. Colwell. Sorry. Thanks.
Don't start my time yet. All right. Love you. Thank you. Good evening. I want to start out by thanking the board for your hard work. I know that this has been a very difficult time trying to make decisions for our students. I want to point out some inconsistencies with what is going on. I once had a bone marrow transplant. One of the rules I had to follow was to avoid people who had been recently vaccinated. Why? Because vaccines shed and can harm people with compromised immune systems. So I find it ironic that the news tells you to go get a flu shot to protect people who can't have it. That's weird, right? All right. I have a book. It's a menopause book. I have a granddaughter at the school and a daughter. All right, I'm that old. All right. So, estrogen replacement therapy was first conceived in the late 1950s, the era of better living through chemistry. We know what happened with that. These were the heady, innocent post-war years when enthusiasm for controlling the natural environment with chemicals was matched only by the eagerness of the chemical companies to find a profitable use for the products. Concurrently, pharmaceutical companies were discovering the financial gains to be made by a similar philosophy. For every human ailment, there is a drug that will cure it. Plastics, pesticides, and antibiotics were going to save the human race. Both the chemical and pharmaceutical companies were learning the value of cleverly disguised public relations campaigns in which articles extolling the virtues of a product were planted in magazines and newspapers. The media went along with this approach and still do, reaping huge benefits in advertising dollars from these same companies. The public naively believed, and still do, that if they read it in a major publication, it must be true. Few industries have reaped more benefits from this public naivety than pharmaceutical companies. The practice continues unabated to this day. The major women's magazines and the nightly TV news shows our virtual pipeline of information for drug companies eager to push their products under the guise of editorial neutrality. This book was published in 1996. It's much worse now. After this, in the late 90s, is when they passed that law. I don't know. I didn't go look. Which one were they? We're one of two countries where they allow the pharmaceutical industries to advertise, and you see it. It's just a constant stream of medicine, selling you stuff. All right. So there's that. Okay. So what about herd immunity? How can there be herd immunity if there are booster shots? Booster shots specifically mean that there's no herd immunity when it comes to immunizations. That's why they are now talking about a third shot. Doesn't that make sense? Think about that. They talk about herd immunity, but if there was really herd immunity, why would there be booster shots? Okay, thanks. Do you know why the pharmaceutical industry has no liability with vaccines? Because in the 1980s, they had so many lawsuits, they were going to go out of business. So they went to Congress and they told them, we're going to go out of business unless you can help us. And you need us because in case there's like an anthrax scare or whatever. So, you're going to need shots right away for everybody. So they passed the 1986 Act. There's actually a documentary on it and you can see how it passed. And so here we have a product where there's no liability. Recently, a close family member came down with COVID, and after 10 days of it getting worse and worse, instead of going to the hospital, we found a doctor to prescribe ivermectin. Do you know what the insert said? That it was not allowed to be used for COVID. So the doctor had to prescribe it for scabies. That doctor is a hero. He could lose his license, but he has morals and is more interested in saving lives. Think about so they scare us. Their people are dying of COVID. Because they're going in and the doctors aren't allowed to prescribe it. I brought some studies, an older one and a newer one, and I have enough for everybody. You can check them out. And I do have one more. There's a whistleblower from the CDC. This came out in 2014. Dr. Thompson. The CDC, media, and vaccine manufacturers are good at scaring policymakers and parents. Consider that Dr. Thompson told Dr. Hooker in May 2014 how the CDC and the media loves to hype measles outbreaks in order to scare the public. Dr. Thompson essentially predicted the hype and fear which surrounded the measles cases in early 2015 in California at Disneyland. And do you know what happened after that? They mandated it because they see everybody's scared. They scare people. Oh, okay. Oh. All right. Finally, any study that has any ties to the pharmaceutical industry is not a study. It is an advertisement. And if you don't know what to believe, maybe we should do our own studies here at school, like a science project on the safety of masks. Let the kids see for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. I know that you were the last one, but someone written on the last page here, and it says Miss Christina, but all you wrote was
I
MC.
think I signed on the wrong page.
That would be me.
Oh, it was signed on the wrong page?
No, it's,
Give everyone a chance. Give everyone a chance.
I put it on the other page.
Yeah, Steve, you're on
Give
another
everyone
page.
a chance.
Huh? You're on another agenda item, Steve.
I'm supposed to be on this one, I put the wrong place.
Give everyone a chance. Probably should go further than go with Steve.
Yeah.
I'll let Steve, I'll yield my time to Steve then.
Get out there, then.
Right out there, girl.
Yeah, we
But I don't know her last name.
She's a hard act to follow.
She is a hard act.
So you gotta go forward.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm
All
sorry,
right.
Miss Christina?
she's gonna go
See,
after.
I'm knocking everything over already.
Oh,
You broke your thing. All right.
just to make, just,
All right.
Mr. Bailey, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna follow protocol here. We're gonna have Miss Christina MC, is that how?
Yeah.
We're gonna, is that your last name, MC? Okay, all right, we're gonna have her go first, but can you state your address too for the record, because we didn't write?
I'll do it after.
Sit down, sit down. Steve, sit down.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Christina. I'm from Illinois Patriots. I have 2 kids in 33C. I have a son that attended here at Lockport. I actually came today. I have, to give you a little backstory, we started a page for parents that are concerned about masks, CRT, Marxist curriculum in their schools, and the new sex ed bill. Within a month, we have over 17 members. Last night, yesterday, we had an event with over 500 people. I can tell you every day I'm speaking to hundreds of people. This has turned into almost a full-time job. Sometimes I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning answering people's questions and talking to attorneys, and we have all kinds of people. Awake Illinois is a great organization. We're all on that. All of our logos are on that. Each logo is a group with over 1,500 people. This is growing into an insane thing here. And I actually came here today to commend you guys for not having the woke Marxist curriculum in your curriculum. I did find that out, and I applaud all of you for keeping it pro-American. I hope it stays that way. I really, really hope it stays that way. I do want to say, you were saying something about I can't understand you with the mask, but and this is, it makes me think of my kids in school with masks and their teachers with masks, not being able to understand anything they said. But I did hear equality, and I heard, or equity, and I heard mental health. Let's talk about mental health, because every day I'm getting email or messages from moms and dads and aunts and uncles about kids that they're scared are going to kill themselves. And it's because they can't socialize. These masks are not good. The social distancing is not good. And everybody has said so much. I don't even have anything else to add because it's been so amazing. I do want to add, because an attorney posted something today, because 33C went maskless. Okay, so if you guys don't go maskless, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Like, doesn't make any sense at all. All the surrounding districts are going maskless. So I'm going to assume you all are going to do the right thing and go maskless. Mask optional, I'm sorry, because I have no problem with anybody wanting to wear a mask. I don't know why everybody has a problem with our kids not wanting to wear masks. I pulled my kids out of school last year and homeschooled them because they did not want to wear masks. They flourished. I have a son that has an IEP and couldn't read very fluently. By the time he was done, he was a fluent reader. He was reading me the 1716 report, or the 1776 report. So he did amazing. Okay, so as far as buses, because this is a fight that I'm gonna have with 33C, because they're still mandating, or whatever, it's a guideline, it's not a mandate, but they're making them wear masks on buses. under Section 361 of the Public Health Service Act and 42 Code of Federal Regulations 770.2, requirement for persons to wear masks while on transportation hubs. Basically, it says this is for country to country, state to state. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, unless you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, the buses here in Lockport and Homer don't go out of state, right? It's staying Homer, Lockport. They don't go out of state. They're not traveling out of state lines. So this, and this is from an attorney that has fought Pritzker over masks and won. So I'm just pointing that out. Hope you guys will make the right decision. And you know, I'm representing a lot of your constituents. I have had a lot of people ask me to come and speak. I currently don't have a kid in this district right now. I have him in 33C. Next year he will be here. I commend you guys for not the curriculum. I can't tell you how much that makes me happy, because it's happening all over this state, and it is disgusting, and it is turning our kids into anti-American and hating our country, and we're not going to have a country. We will be Cuba. We will be Venezuela if this doesn't stop. So thank you guys. Good job. And I hope you guys make the right decision. Do the right thing.
All right, Mr. Steve Balich. Sorry.
My name's Steve Ballage, and I'm here as the chairman of the Homer Township Republican Organization. We have 408 taxpayers in our group, and they're all actively involved with this stuff that's going on in our school districts. And we asked Zion Navarra if he would get us the curriculum and materials that the kids are being taught here, and he did. And then we had people go through all of it, and thank God there was nothing with critical race theory or 1619 or none of that junk. So we're here, you know, I'm here to say thank you guys. You're doing a good job on that end. And the other thing now, you're going into the mask. And I get it, you're probably gonna just say it's optional, which is good. But there's gonna be a lot of things gonna happen in the future because our Illinois governor tries to put the pressure on our heads and push us down. That's what all this stuff is about, control. It's not about anything else but control. So like we have the Illinois Patriots, there's a lot of other groups. There's about 5 different groups with thousands of people that the Homer Township Republicans, which is Lockport, everything, we have a lot of Lockport people, Homer people, then we got some people in Lamont and some people like over in New Lenox and Joliet. But most of them are Homer, and that's a big portion of your school. Well, what you got to realize is just because the state of Illinois says there's a law, you don't have to obey it. The Illinois school thing, I forgot the letters, ISP, whatever, they say you got to do something, you don't have to do it. Everybody thinks because the king says you must do it, you must do it. The reality is, no, you don't have to. You can tell them you're not going to do it. And that's something everybody's got to really think about. Just because somebody says you can do it, if it's wrong, you can't do it, or you're going to go to hell. God's going to punish you terribly if you do stuff that you know is not right. And when you're on a board, you're held to a way higher level because people look up to you on the board. And if you're going to be on the board and then force things that you know are wrong, that's not good. That's, you know, you just can't do it. But I'll give you a good example. At the county level, I'm on the county board also. I'm on land use, and we at the county board refused to implement the state fire codes for sprinklers on commercial and houses. Why? Because it could cost anywhere from $20,000 to $60,000 a house. So we're not going to do that. The fire department says you have to because that's the law. And if it's the law, you got to do it, right? That's what you guys are experiencing. The king, JB, says it's the law. And then he sends all the rest of them, all the rest of them minions that are under him to tell you, you must do this. Well, you tell them no. And what can they do to you? Just like with us. We tell the fire department, you want to enforce it, do it yourself. So now they have to take somebody to court if they want to enforce it. We're not going to do it. We'll let you move in your property without that from the county side. But now if the fire department wants to, God bless them. That's their problem, not ours. You guys have the same choice in a different way, in a more important way. It's our kids' lives. You know, so when you guys think about stuff, and you know it's wrong, and I know you got everybody on the board mostly. I know I don't really know you. I'm sorry, Dr. Veronica Shaw, but you know, but the other ones I've met, you know, and the bottom line though is, if they say they're going to cut your funding, all right, then you tell them, cut the damn funding. Who cares? The people in the district would rather have the funding cut and save their kids' minds than have the funding. So now if they say you cut the funding, now what happens? I'm sure you'll figure it out. There's lots of ways to figure it out. But you can't have children have problems in school, especially with dumb things like masks. And you guys are doing great with critical race theory and 1619 and all that other junk. But that's it? Oh, please. I get carried away. But what you got to do is please really, really consider that you don't have to do what the king says. You do what's right for these children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowdge. Okay. And that's all. Okay.
No, we have one right here, another one. Well, you were off the clock.
I'm sorry? No.
We have one more back here.
Don't think so. Unless it was on the wrong one. That was for
Yeah, we just have one speaker on the items on the non-agenda topics. Are you Mr. Marino?
That's correct.
You're later in the agenda. So we come later in the agenda. If it's not on the there's another section in just a little bit for non-agenda topics.
Well, thank you. Okay. Going on to our agenda, we have the approval of the regular meeting minutes of June 21st, 2021. Want to have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned by Mr. Ives and second by Dr. Shaw. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Navarra,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yeah.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Next, we don't have no closed session meeting minutes. Next, we have the approval of board member expenses and employee travel expenses exceeding travel limits for July 2021. Just need a motion for that? So moved. It's been motioned by Dr. Shaw, and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any questions to that? Hearing none, roll call.
Navarra,
Yes.
Travis,
Yeah.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Next, we have the approval of the treasurer's report for June 2021. I'll make that motion. Just need a second. And it's been motioned by Lopez Caniva and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any questions to those, that treasurer's report? Roll call.
Ives,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yeah.
Navarra,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Okay, next we have our superintendent update.
All right. Well, presently, I opened up my update with, most since July 9th. Sort of very quick day. I mean, almost everybody, all these fine folks, everyone's eyes, and we'll talk a little bit later in the agenda about July 19th and July 9th. I don't know why I keep on saying maybe it's COVID-19. With that release of those updated guidance from the CDC and the quick adoption, by the state of Illinois. We are, as I shared last month, we're in a pilot with SHIELD of Illinois, just to remind board members. SHIELD is the testing protocol, about 60,000 people on the campus at University of Illinois, that really was instrumental in keeping the positivity rate below 1% the entire year, long before there were vaccines. SHIELD is developed and it's maintained by the University of Illinois. That's its origin and its creation. We're looking at SHIELD right now, piloting it with band camp members and piloting it with athletes. And again, it also, just as a reminder to the board, a parent has to provide consent if you're 18 or younger. Really for 3 reasons. One, so we can always have a good sense of how much COVID is on our campus. Just what is the level? Is it present or not? 2, provide a process for unvaccinated students to avoid lengthy quarantine. I'll talk later. Quarantine remains a part of the CDC guidance. We'll have to come to grips with what's mandated and what is not mandated, as people had mentioned earlier. But quarantine is still a mandate. And then 3, it actually provides vaccinated students and staff members who have COVID-like symptoms an opportunity to rule that out, to say I've got a cold, but I don't have to quarantine because I'm negative. On a personal level, I decided to be the first SHIELD tested person in District 205 and had a stroke of luck. Because the weekend before I took my SHIELD test, I attended an event in the city of Chicago, people all over the nation, and learned later that there was a fairly serious COVID outbreak at that event among superintendents attending that event. But I learned on Wednesday that I was negative for COVID, which gave me quite a bit of peace of mind. So kind of worked in that personal way. A few other things in my superintendent report. Congratulations to, I believe, Janine Wheeler is sitting behind me. Eric Slager is right over there. Deanna Gregorich. They received one of 85 districts in the nation, 2 in the state, from the National School Public Relations Association, a distinction, Golden Achievement distinction, just recently. So a major accomplishment, really sort of shows the board's effort to improve communication and put those assets to work. Mr. Navarra made this point. Summer's also a time where people are doing curriculum. We're doing a lot of curriculum work as a District 2. You received last month the district management group partnership that we did to take a look at the resources we provide for struggling students. We spent quite a bit of time last week, working on a timeline for how that will actually look to provide those supports for students over the next 5 years. So you'll see that final product in August, how we're actually going to sequence that out. If you haven't noticed, it's also a super busy time for building projects, cleaning, maintenance. We're really looking forward to, hopefully maybe in August, or we can do a public tour if you really look around our facilities. The project for a library tech hub on the center of the building really coming together, doing some major work right here in the cafeteria on the flooring. Things are getting fixed, things are getting rebuilt, putting things in trim. And then finally, I mentioned the event that I was in. I was invited to attend the Educational Research and Development Institute, which is sort of a think tank experience of policymakers, U.S. Department of Education, sometimes tech providers, superintendents from across the country, sitting down. Some of the questions that we were asked to sort of think through is how to build trust in public entities like schools during a divisive time, how to create a writing culture in public schools when we seem to maybe have abandoned writing in our communications, how to create a community talent pipeline into college and career readiness to kind of meet those needs, those employment needs, and how do you manage student data to be more responsive to students. And then finally, I just want to give another thanks to Walmart. I know that might seem a strange partner, but really, truly, when we came fully in the last 9 weeks of school, we never could have done it without the generosity of Walmart, just giving us about 250 spaces a day for students to park and giving them an option if they didn't want to ride the bus. So just something I think the board, should acknowledge. That's my report.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the approval of consent agenda items number 2 to number 10. just need a motion for that.
I'll second
All right, it's motion by Mr.
Or did
Ives,
Did I cut her off? I'm sorry.
You're fine.
and seconded by Mr. Lewandowski.
Ives and Lewandowski.
Or was it?
Ives and Lewandowski.
Are there any questions to those?
I was actually going to make the initial motion, so it's Dick's fault.
Oh.
Yeah, it's my fault.
All right, hearing no questions, just roll call.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Travis, Lopez Caniva.
Yes, thank you. All right, next we have the approval of the tentative budget for the fiscal year 2021 and 2022. I'll make that motion. Just need a second.
Second?
A motion by Ms. Lopez Caniva and second by Dr. Shaw. Are there any questions to that tentative budget? Thank you, Ms. Croy.
Yes, thank
for
you,
that.
Stephanie.
Thank you.
Getting the ball rolling.
I
Nice
know,
job.
at least get it going. All right, roll call.
Ives,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, next we have the approval of lease agreement for classroom space for the district's special education program. I can make that motion. It's been motioned by Ms. Lopez Caniva and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any questions to those? All right, hearing none.
Shaw,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Dr. Huntington, she's not here, right?
She is not.
She is not. She'll have to let us know how the students react to the horse suits and the therapy.
Right, and that is also in reaction, just to remind board members, we're leasing space because we expect that the law extending our transition students, these are our students who work beyond, who stay with us for transition services previously until 21, now until 23, we'll have more students. And so they'll need some additional classroom space to do what they do. So just taking advantage of that space and a nice place, nice
Yes,
connection.
nice
So it's a
connection.
product
Yes.
of that, of planning for that law.
All right, next we have the revision of policy 6:185, remote learning.
All right. Last month, the board might remember that I briefed you on some of the things that we've seen from the state superintendent's declaration regarding full in-person learning, which prioritized full in-person learning for all Illinois public schools and really created a very narrow band, almost an impossible band, for any student to seek full remote learning. You might remember last year we ran a full remote learning academy using our teachers and Apex Learning, pairing those two. And last year, any student who requested full remote learning by our deadline was able to do that. This year, very narrow band, really almost by the state, very difficult. So the only way that the board can actually permit that or allow that is through a revision of a current policy that you have that empowers me to establish a remote learning platform. So what is in front of you is some work we did to present you with a revision to 6:185, a standing policy you have already. So let me explain three types of students that we're concerned about. You have a student who's on a 10 to 14 day quarantine, which will still be part of our operations this year. Students who have a personal medical issue. We had some speakers earlier on. They have an autoimmune disease. Maybe they're suffering from a childhood cancer, something that really puts them at risk. Might not make it safe for them to be vaccinated. They might be vaccinated, but still it's an unsafe situation. And then finally, students who have immediate household members who are in fragile medical conditions, and any kind of COVID that could come into the home could be very, very serious for those family members. So as we approach that, there's really a couple different ways of approaching that. Students on 10 to 14 day quarantine don't need to be covered by policy because we'll provide quarantine support for them. And you might recall the board hired quarantine interventionists, teachers sending work home. We've got that. That's not necessarily under policy. Students with personal medical issues are already covered on a separate policy. Policy 6:150 allows home and hospital instruction to set up a full platform for students who qualify for that medically. That only leaves not covered any student who has a immediate family household member who is at risk. And so policy 6:185, if you approve this, would permit, if they request it and qualify, to have full remote learning. So all three of those groups would be covered if you approve 6:185. So just questions from board members?
We got questions. We have some questions.
Yeah, just you at this stage, you're part of the board meeting, but this is a discussion for board members. So I'm sorry, that's just how a Board of Education meeting is run. So
Just based off of what I've heard here, this is just remote learning for people who opt for the remote learning.
who opt for that.
So this is not forcing anybody into remote learning. So this is for the people who would like to
Right.
protect people in their households or protect
Want
themselves
to say,
based off of their beliefs.
I want
It's
to
not-
continue
yes.
schooling, but I want a full remote option.
Okay. And they have to have one of these designated reasons to do it.
Right.
Okay.
So it's creating an opportunity for them to make that request.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You know, otherwise, without you already have policy that covers the child that has a personal medical issue. So that's covered if they request.
Yes.
Who you do not have covered right now as a board is you don't have covered anyone who has a household member of their immediate family. So policy 6:, a revision of 6:185, this revision would create that process for
Should
them.
someone choose-
Would authorize me to create that process for them if they request it.
Yes.
If they say, I just need a full semester of remote, someone at home is
And here's
medically
why.
fragile.
Okay.
Science, good question.
Yeah,
So
Zion.
just to clarify, the default is in-person learning, and then we're gonna make it,
That
if
is a
people request, they can do remote learning.
Right, so that's a good way of putting it, Zion. It's a default, right?
For these reasons, so not just any reason.
Right, but it is specifically, Mr. Ives asked for these reasons, right? So what this creates is a very clear sense of what those reasons are.
Right.
That you could make the request for full remote learning rather than in-person learning. And what this is actually doing, if you back it up even more, as board members know, Illinois has compulsory education, right? So a failure to attend is truancy, right? And that would leave some families who might qualify under this revision, but want to continue education remotely. Where would that leave them? That would not leave them with an option. Right? And as you've heard tonight, a number of people presented medical issues in their homes and might take advantage of that, might apply and say, here's the situation, here's what my family physician has said, it's not safe for my child or because of someone in our household to go to school. So really only 6:185 revises for that immediate household member.
Right.
Because everyone else is covered under other policies someplace else.
Can you bring this back next month for approval, or is it?
I'm proposing it for approval now.
Right.
And I know we don't usually do that. We talked about it last month. And it would be difficult for us it would be impossible for us at your next board meeting on August 16th. We would need time to present this to families, walk them through the process. They would have to work with their physician. Some of these are processes that are already in place, like we've had homebound tutoring for a very long time, right, that policy. But just without board approval, authorizing me to offer them a remote program and a qualification process, we would likely run out of time before
Right.
the beginning of school.
School's already gonna start.
Right, school will
Yeah.
already be started. Right.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
It's been motioned by Mr. Lewandowski and seconded by Dr. Shaw. Since you answered all our questions, I guess we can have a roll call.
Yep.
Johnson,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Ives,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Okay, now it's going to be public comments not listed on agenda. A designated portion of the board meeting is set aside to hear comments on topics not listed on the agenda. A person wishing to speak must sign in and provide all information requested on the sign-in sheet, including the topic they will be addressing. The board president will call speakers up by name, announcing their time to comment. A time limit of 5 minutes per speaker per agenda topic will be imposed. The purpose of requesting such information on the sign-in sheet is to obtain the correct spelling of the name of the speaker and contact information, which will be used for any necessary board follow-up. And we do have one person, and that's a Mr. Fred Marino.
There's nothing like being the last speaker.
You get the final word.
The final word. My name's Fred Marino. I'm a 33-year resident here. I had no intention of speaking when I walked through the doors tonight, but I do want to commend the magnificent speakers that spoke tonight. And I want to thank you people for all that you do. That's I'm just going to give you a little background, and it's not so much my comments, but maybe my perspective, I hope, will help a little bit. I'm an inner city boy born and raised. I attended a Chicago public school. I had a passion for kids and decided to go on and into the teaching ranks, so I hope that will bring some perspective. I've been a teacher for over 40 years. I'm retired. I was a football and wrestling coach, teacher, counselor, dean of discipline, administrative assistant, and then assistant principal. I say that not to attach any status to, that's not my intent. My intent is to bring perspective, and that's all I am. My topic's a little bit different. I don't have prepared notes for this. Everything that we do in education, everything, is to build up kids. I've had the good fortune of having a son come through this school, had a wonderful education, and I guess my mission tonight is to encourage you and challenge you a little bit, not to get into groupthink. As educators, I always thought that our job was we were hired, we were to teach in our discipline, whatever that might be, math, science, U.S. history, and we're not to use the classroom or the school as a platform for social engineering. If I went to sleep and woke up after being retired for a while and saw what's going on in our schools today, I wouldn't believe it. I can't believe that we're now bordering on taking over parental rights. Our job as administrators, deans, counselors, was to build kids up, not to do things that would ever divide kids, make them feel inferior, shamed, guilted in any way. It's to build them up and bring them together. Everything we did was that, and that took place within the classroom. You did that. If you were a teacher, you just didn't open up a book and go through the notes. Everything you did was to build that character, to build that into the classroom situation, and teach respect. Just some of the common sense things. I think we get into dangerous waters when we start teaching social engineering. So I'm encouraging you, don't get into groupthink. Be the one people that stands in the gap, always examining what you're doing and standing up for the kids. I've worked extensively with boards, and I'll tell you, I've just been blown away by the work that they did, by the sacrifices that you make. It's a difficult job, and it's a thankless job. But you're the guardians, you're the watchdogs, and it's not easy to stand in the gap, but you've got to do the right thing. So I'm encouraging you to continue on. I heard Christina speak yesterday, and she said that she had examined what you're proposing in terms of the curriculum and things like that, and found no evidence that there's any movement towards that. But you're going to be challenged again. This is going to come up over and over and over again. And you've got to stand tall in that gap, and you got to do the right things, because we're fighting for the souls of these kids. Sometimes I feel like Al Pacino in The Godfather. Just when I was out, I get sucked right back in. But once you get around kids, they're so amazing, and you can't quit. So I have no children in the school system, and I just came to listen. But once you're in administration, you get used to talking a lot, and you can't keep your mouth shut. But anyway, thank you very much for all that you do, and I encourage you to stay in that fight.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. All right, okay, next, we have our information reports, guidance services, Navient use and implementation.
Are you my clicker guy?
Yeah.
Awesome, Bill, thank you. So thank you for inviting me this evening. Not to be disrespectful, I might just kind of hang out and focus on some familiar faces just for the intimidation of this whole room right now. But my name is Kathy Fields. I'm a counselor over here at East, and I'm part of the College and Career PLC within our department. So I'm excited to talk about some things that we have had the opportunity to use Naviance over the last school year, and what we look forward to using Naviance in the years to come. So as you know, Naviance is our career and college planning platform that we have started to use with students. This is just a screenshot of the main page that we're really trying to get students familiar with, that when they click on that green circle on their student splash page for Naviance, they get a lot of information. They can go to their own personal portfolio. We are actually able to send them personalized messages saying, hey, you indicated that Mizzou was a college of interest for you. Mizzou is actually going to be visiting Lockport on this date. So we can actually send messages where they can sign up for college visits. As you can see there on the top left, it says virtual college visits. That's how we had to do our visits this year. Students could sign up directly through their Naviance portal. We had important to-dos and tasks, so we can actually push out tasks. Our senior survey this year was pushed out as a task to be completed by students. So when we had them log into their portfolio, they could click right there on the task to be completed. So this is kind of what their Naviance splash page, in effect, would look like. Okay, Bill? So last year we had the challenge of obviously trying to push out information to students on career and college planning remotely, and we developed something called the Counselor Connection time. And through Counselor Connection, we were able to do Google Meetings with students and walk them through the process with instructions on either Google Slides. We actually used a new program called Nearpod, which was a learning experience for all of the counselors to use Nearpod, and interacting with students on what they did or did not know in college and career planning, and how that integrated to what Naviance could provide for them in terms of interest inventories, or we did a advanced college search with some of our juniors. So it was more of an opportunity for students to see in real time how to use Naviance. One of the things that we've now done, and we've moved all of our local scholarships into Naviance. And the nice thing as the scholarship coordinator in using Naviance with my kind of partner in crime, Jen Crosby in the College Career Center, is we have the flexibility to make these active or inactive, change dates, and integrate it in real time so that when students log in, we can control what they see and don't see. But as new scholarships come and old scholarships, unfortunately, are exited, we can create that within Naviance directly. Bill? And then in December, just kind of as an example, what I did was showed students that when they click on scholarships, they can go to our local scholarship list. They can actually save scholarships, keep track of their applications, and the same holds true for college applications as well. They can save colleges they like and what their application status is. So they have this whole interactive portfolio within Naviance that hopefully we're starting to get students a little bit more familiar with how that works, and clicking that heart saves it to their portfolio. So again, last year was really all about making the students aware of what this program can do for them. So as I mentioned, we did a senior exit survey, and part of that was to collect some data that we used for our CCRI data tracking. And this is just a screenshot of how the information from the survey got reported back to the counselors. So we can actually dig pretty deeply into the survey results. But just one of the questions, what are your plans? And this survey was actually done in May with our seniors. So by that point, they really had a solid idea. We can actually see what our students are planning for so that we can develop better guidance curriculum for the students based on what they are giving us direct feedback on. But we can actually, on the right, you can see where it says view details. We can actually click that and see student by student. We can see college by college. There's some information that says, please identify all schools that they've applied to. We can actually see which ones they are planning to attend. So we have a lot of data pulled just from this 10 to 12 question survey. Next slide. In addition, so when we have students do activities within the Naviance program, like a career search or a college search, we can complete or run some task completion reports. So this was just one of the reports that we pulled for career interests. So when students save interests of careers, we can pull reports. We can do it based on grade level and see what are our current sophomores telling us that they think they want to know more about or they think they want to do, so that maybe we can get more community interest in doing job shadow opportunities, or maybe we can have some career speakers come in. And so we can see right now we have a huge interest in lawyers and clinical psychologists. And what does that tell us as a guidance department? What information can we provide back to our students on that? So there's a lot of data retrieval that we can pull from Naviance as well. So looking to the future, next steps, we have not yet integrated the parent portal. We hope to be doing that during our back to school days. When we have the parents come through, we will be doing some workshops to help them learn how, when the student is in their portal, how that parent can then add themselves with their own personal email and contact information and log in so that they can help their student from home, as Naviance is a 24/7 portal, to be able to go in and see the results with their student. In addition, Naviance continues to evolve on the daily basis. It's a great learning curve for someone like myself, all old dog, new tricks, trying to keep up with what the new technology is. So one of the new features that Naviance is going to be doing is some work-based learning types of opportunities. And so what that will allow us to do is actually have the community push out, very similar to what we are doing with our community service opportunities. We can actually have the community push out through Naviance, or our guidance team push out through Naviance. Here are some great opportunities, students, that you can sign up for. We've touched base with someone within our community who's willing to host a student for a job shadow. And students can find that information directly in Naviance and sign up through Naviance for a job shadow opportunity or a college visit type of thing. So there's a lot that's happening just right now in real time through Naviance, that when our PLC returns in the fall, we will be learning all of these new features within this program. I think, Bill, I think that's the end of it, yes? Wonderful. Questions? Mr. Ives.
Two quick questions. One is, when does a student, is it upperclassmen that set this up, or do you start it when you're a freshman?
We start them when they're freshmen, so we've actually built through our PLC curriculum based on grade level, freshman through senior, that we have certain tasks in career planning and college planning, whether it's an interest inventory or an advanced college search, or just learning how to read their dashboard and get those email messages that certain reps are coming to colleges. So we, last year, actually did it by grade level. We had at least 2 activities per grade level through Naviance.
And the final question is that I really like the scholarship page. It's being involved in that process when it comes through with the Rotary Club stuff. You know, they can go in, can they submit it to like the Rotary Club that I'm in? They could, if they apply for the Rotary Scholarship, can they write through there and submit it, we get it electronically? Or do we still have to get it where you have to copy everything and give us the packages? Are the students gonna be able to submit the applications directly to the sponsor of the scholarship?
That's a good question, and that's one of those old dog, new trick things that I would have to check with our Naviance rep to see if we can do. I know we do actually upload the scholarship directly into Naviance. So when the students are in their scholarship page,
Right.
they can click on the information and actually pull up the PDF. From there, however, for them to, Naviance has something called eDocs.
Sure.
Which right now we are not currently using, and that's the ability for them to, in relation to college applications, they can send their Common App through Naviance. But there's a lot of different pieces that go into a Common App, including a teacher recommendation and a counselor recommendation. And those would all have to be added in separately. And so we've been working with our Naviance rep to figure out the smoothest way to do this, so that we don't have all these external people. You get asked for recommendations often. And so you would now need your own individual login to Naviance as a community member to be able to write that letter of recommendation. Well, that's a lot of individual pieces getting involved in that one thing.
Fair enough.
So that's why the eDocs right now, we haven't gotten all the right answers to use. So similarly, the scholarships would function.
No, that's because there are other features they have to put together. Thank you.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you mentioned that job shadowing is available for Naviance, right?
Well, they're pushing something out now where we can list opportunities within Naviance for students to have job shadow opportunities or other career-based opportunities. So they've just launched that this summer. So when we return as our PLC in the fall, we will be doing workshops that Naviance is offering to learn how to identify that within Naviance. But that's something historically, we've always had the availability for students to do job shadows. It's just that we've independently been reaching out to individual community members as the need arises. We've been working with our different chambers of commerce, asking if there's any members in the community that are willing to host students for job shadows. And we've done that strictly through our Career and College Center. What this new feature, hopefully, and again, I'm speaking very globally because I have not been through the training for it yet, what I'm hoping it allows us to do then is if we find out that business ABC in Homer Glen is willing to host a student, and actually just recently I sent a student to Wilson Sporting Goods corporate headquarters in Rosemont to learn about sports marketing. So if that's something that we've now built the partnership with Wilson Sporting Goods that we can continue that relationship, I can then post it within Naviance for students to see that would be something that they could sign up for or work with Mrs. Crosby in our Career and College Center to arrange.
Does that affect their school, like attendance for school? Are they excused from attendance to school, or does the company plan around the school schedule?
The school does have written in, similarly to the college visits, that students can use days off of school excused to do a job shadow. With that being said, it's written in so that they have 3 days to do a job shadow or a college visit. So what I individually as a counselor will often advise students to do is a job shadow can happen at any point in time, even on days when we're not in school session. So whether it's summer or it's Columbus Day or it's things like that, we can help that students arrange that job shadow opportunity where they're not having to miss instructional time to do it. But yes, the students do have the availability to use 3 days within their junior and senior year to do college visits and job shadow opportunities as excused absences.
Okay.
And just, we wanted to do this presentation 2 years ago. The board authorized moving from career cruising to Naviance as a stronger product. So just thought after 2 years of work, giving you a sense of what's actually happening with Naviance.
Definitely a work in progress. We are learning as we go. This last year was the first year that we really pushed kids into their portfolios, and we got some feedback from the data that you could see in terms of how we can use it better or more effectively in the years to come, and especially with the new features and new management within Navient. So again, thank you for all your time. Please feel free to email me if you have any future questions or further questions regarding Naviance. Thank you.
Yeah, great job. Thank you.
Okay, next we have our principal's report.
Being July, it's a little different. We normally present all of the events and attendance data and discipline data. But what we wanted to do this month is talk a little bit about pack time, just to kind of give you a little bit of an update.
And we also wanted to talk a little bit about the schedule as well, and the committee that we formed to look at building a schedule for next school year and for pack time, as Carrie just mentioned as well. You know, at the end of the school year, as obviously we were focused on particularly the last 7 weeks of being all in, we also knew that we had to create a new bell schedule for this upcoming school year. We went through a negotiation process. We talked about many things, of course, including our professional learning committees, communities, and then also the newly formed Porter Assistance and Connection Time that was formed largely because of the full remote learning and the hybrid schedule that we had to be on for the large part of the school year. And as you know, we have put a lot of time, and also with your support, and thank you again, towards our professional learning communities. As Kathy Fields just got done talking about, you heard a little bit about what our guidance PLCs have been doing with the great resource that we have with Naviance. So we have been able to receive a lot of feedback about our PLCs. We've had a PLC revitalization committee. And prior to this school year, when we had our common time where our PLCs largely met during the week for about 30 minutes or so, we also had tutoring 1 day a week where we had half the departments for 1 week and then half the departments for the other. We really wanted to take a look at how we were doing that to see if we were really being as effective as we could be. And then, of course, we really wanted to see what we had with our pack time, if that would be something that we could continue to do. In fact, it was something that we were looking at even prior to the pandemic. As Carrie and I were on a team where we visited some local schools who have that advisory period embedded into their schedule. So it's something that was very attractive to us and we wanted to explore further. So as we got to the end of the school year, and as myself, Carrie, and then our assistant principals, Matt Bartley, Jen Webray, Trish Sermon, took collectively a lot of feedback from our teachers, from our guidance counselors, from our deans, and to really see what could be the best schedule for us, including some of the aforementioned things that I just talked about. So Carrie and I took a day at the end of May to present to our staff throughout the day a proposed schedule. We received feedback. We put together a schedule/pack committee where we have met with them 2 times, and in fact, we actually have a 3rd scheduled meeting for next week. Where we're looking to continue to build PAC. Just a little bit about the schedule. We've received great feedback on that. One thing about PLCs that we really did hear overwhelmingly from our staff, we had the opportunity to work in smaller chunks of time, but this past year and a half with the pandemic and then with just this past school year, our teacher teams, our PLCs, had a longer stretch of time to work, particularly on our shortened Wednesday schedule, which was largely something that people really liked. So that was something that, as you can see with the Wednesday part, with the later start on that 1 day, to give our teacher teams, our PLCs, that longer chunk of time in the morning to work, and then have a little bit of a later start day for that particular Wednesday.
And it was actually kind of surprising to us as administrators because it was actually a 60% reduction in the total amount of time that they received to work together. But they were willing to take a look at that, and one chunk of time was much more beneficial for continuity and being able to plan.
So we looked at, of course, the consistency of the bell periods throughout the day at both campuses, and then we talked about embedding that period into the school day. And this is something that we've been working on, we're going to continue to work on, because of course this is something new that we're going to be doing. But we wanted to take some lessons learned. And from our Porter Assistance and Connection Time, we wanted to give our students the opportunity to be able to see their teachers more often. Whether they possibly were struggling, just needed a little bit extra assistance, need something reclarified to them. As I mentioned a minute ago, prior to this school year when we had the tutoring once a week before school, not just during the school day during study halls, but also before school, we found one largely that it really wasn't equitable because it was not allowing all of our students to be able to access that. It was for those students who had the ability to get here early. And we also did hear that teachers just also liked the ability to be able to see their students more often. So we want this to be an opportunity for students to be able to connect with their teachers, but then also to be able to help them navigate throughout high school. And that's actually where I'm going to have Carrie talk a little bit about the building of this new, it's going to be newly named. We're still calling it PAC, but we are going to put a new name on it.
And we're actually glad that many of you are parents that are here. We're glad that you're here to hear this. And so we kept talking about how can we help the students navigate their academic experience. What do they need? So we really wanted to make this time, which that word navigate kept coming up, and we were talking with Dr. McBride and we kind of came up with the word compass, because we really want the kids to direct what they need as high school students. And so embedding this time in the day, the kids, yes, if they need assistance, they can go for assistance. There are other resources that they can access. You just heard Kathy Fields, the guidance counselors are there, college visits, the media center. But it provides them with so many opportunities during the day. And Dr. Green and I are so very excited to have the kids back in the building. You know, that's why we went into education, to be here with the kids. So we have missed them tremendously. And we know that these kids coming in have missed out on so much. And so what we want to do with this new, and I'm going to call it Compass now. We put on the sheet, PAC to be renamed. I'm going to throw it out there. It's not official. We're talking to the committee this week. But we kind of like the name Compass because the kids are kind of really directing their own path. And what we came up with the team of teachers and the other admin is that the first 2 weeks of this PAC/Compass time, we really want to re-engage them, connect them back in. Because some of our kids don't even know what it's like to be in high school, truly. Some of our kids, even if they're seniors, they've missed out on a year and a half. So we've actually put together, our assistant principals have been working so hard on really building the relationships and connectors with our kids. We need to reconnect them what it means to be in high school. So coming up with strategies and tips so that they can get back into the full swing of being in a high school setting. And those relationships we know are so important in every aspect that we do. We want them to feel a part of Lockport Township High School because when the kids are connected, they will flourish in their academic experience, whether it be social, emotionally, and academically. So we're really excited about that opportunity. And in those first 2 weeks, reconnecting with them, connecting with staff members, with the other students within their, other schools call it the advisory. Reconnecting with those kids, talking about expectations, talking about how this Compass time is going to work. Because within that third week, we're going to give students the opportunity to access their teachers, to access other resources that we have available for them in the district, and still provide them the opportunity to come back in to their Compass area and check in, see how things are going. So it's kind of almost like a little bit of a safety net and a reconnection for students. It's what they need. So the students are going to navigate their academic experience and what they need. So it's not necessarily we're taking some of the words like PACT. That's kind of associated, we use that term during the pandemic, so we want to cross that bridge and give our kids the opportunities to be successful and opportunities that they can utilize within their day based on their needs as students so that they can navigate their direction and reach their goals. So that's really what the purpose is of PACT. So I am really excited that you guys are here so that you can hear about PACT and what the intention is for our kids. So we'll get the word out. Yes. So it's called Compass. So it's called Compass. So it's called Compass. No problem. So it's called Compass. Board members, do you have questions of us? Good work. Yeah, we're very excited. Luann?
So, you said it's for the kids to drive their careers, their learning?
Well, it's their experience. So, okay, so for example, if a student's really struggling in one area, a teacher can say, you need to come see me.
Okay, so you
need
got
to come see me.
Okay.
We're going to meet up in Compass. Or it could be a kid who was absent and I I need to touch base because I missed something. Some of our AP kids, some of their things may not be done. I'm gonna touch base with you. I'm gonna finish a lab. I'm gonna make up a test. I'm going to go to the media center. I'm gonna meet with my counselor. Well, Mizzou is coming in, like Kathy said. Mizzou is coming in for a college visit. I can go get my college visit done in this time. So it's what the kids need. And you know what? For some of our kids, they are so busy, whether it be a job, athletics, co-curriculars, they might need that 35 minutes for them to just say, okay, I need to organize myself.
Yes.
These are 35 minutes that I can do. I can sit in this room, my Compass room, and go through what I need, or maybe it's a little extra time for me to study because I had three tests that day. It's what the kids need themselves.
We want to give teachers the opportunity to be able to schedule those kids in, but we also want to eventually build the students taking some initiative for themselves and to be able to schedule themselves for some of the things that Carrie had
So we're
mentioned.
going to scaffold this out. The first couple weeks, they're going to be in with their Compass group and with the advisor that's in there. Again, building these relationships. Hey guys, let's connect. Let's connect as people. Let's connect as a Lockport community and what it means to truly be a Porter. And let's talk about what you need to be successful as you're heading back into what will be hopefully a normal school year. And then some strategies and expectations. Okay, this is what Compass is. This is the options that you were going to have. So that'll be the first couple weeks and scaffold it out. And then, okay, you can go see some of the teachers are gonna schedule you and then roll it out that, hey, these are some options, some other areas of the building that you can explore in case you need to.
Okay.
So, Zion, you had a question?
How does networking within Lockport, Homer, like play on a factor with like Compassing? You said that they're meeting with a group, right?
Well, they're gonna be assigned to like one classroom with a teacher or two teachers in there. And really our goal is, one of the things that we're trying to work out, still working through the kinks with the scheduling, is we would love for that advisor, like that teacher, to be in there with those kids for the duration. Like it's a little different at Central Campus. They're there for 1 year. But while they're here at East, to have the same advisor for 3 years. So it's a person that they can constantly connect with. So even though they're coming in their junior year and they have all new teachers, they know that that Compass person is still their person. And they already have that relationship built. So it's an extra
How would that be
person.
different from like their counselor?
Well, they don't see their counselor every day.
Oh, so okay.
They could. If they wanted to, they could be in that Compass room and see that person every day if they needed
So
to.
this is a class that is like replacing the study hall, or?
No, so it's not a class, it's an extra time frame that's built in. They will still have a study hall opposite their lunch.
Okay.
Yep, they'll still have that in there too.
Can I ask how long the time frame is?
Sure, it's 35 minutes and it'll be 4 days a week.
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, next we have another information report, attendance report. There is none. And then information report, school opening COVID guidance.
All right, well, just in time, I just logged myself out of Board Docs for my report. Or if you logged yourself out, maybe something just happened with Board Docs.
Nope, I'm
So
back.
I can, if you just give me a minute to log myself back in, that would be great. Thanks. I don't know what happened. It's very unusual.
Do you want to use mine?
No, I'm good. It just dropped me.
No, it did that to me earlier tonight.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say first and foremost, I really appreciate this group because universally, in all of my experiences with folks coming out for public comment, people make public comment and then they leave. They leave even before the conversation actually happens with the board. So I so appreciate that you've really been patient with us and the format, and you've stayed because that's very important. I also would say, just to clarify something, and yeah, very much so. I would also say, something when it's passionate and people feel very strongly, that can be very difficult at board meetings. And that is, the reason why we have public comment and the reason why we have an information report like this. The public comment's open, and the public comment becomes before the board speaks so that we can hear from you first. But what I would really ask you is this portion of the meeting is really you're here watching the board have its conversation in public. And it's so important that when we deliberate over something, that those deliberations by these board members don't happen in some secret room. They share their thoughts and their perspectives and their feelings in live in public on a live feed in front of you. But I would hope that we would give these board members, as their superintendent, looking for direction from them, the freedom to engage with each other, because eventually I will come to them, not tonight, because could you imagine if you came to share what you're passionate about, and we already had a motion to approve a plan, even before we listened to you, listened to our staff, polled even maybe more parents. So tonight is really an information report for us to consider some of the issues at hand, and to really give these board members a chance to talk to each other in front of you and in front of the folks who are on the live stream. So just a little bit about the process, and then also about the process is that we'll be from tonight, and it's really only been a week that we've had this information. That's not a lot of time to make a very important decision. I use the old carpenter's adage, measure twice, cut once. And we're charged with the responsibility of taking a year's worth of knowledge and pouring that into these new updated guidance, and do not want to make a decision that is mistargeted, misaimed, or violates some of the things that we think are really important in this pandemic. The fact of the matter is this is going to require for everyone a new level of cooperation. Because one difference with these guidelines is that last year it was all on the school district. It was all on these 7 board members. Total responsibility. But now the new and updated guidance asks for shared responsibility. And I use words like shared and partnership and community because it's going to take that really to get these kids recovered, through, safe. And I've just found for the board members, partnership, sharing, and especially in schoolwork, because school is not about absolutes, because children are not about absolutes. I suspect we have some parents in the room. And our battle, if you've ever had a battle with a child of it's going to be my way or not, someone wins, but no one learns. And we're going to owe it all to each other not to have that battle and be a community. So we hope, certainly before the start of school, but in the next few weeks, to be able to publish, a plan, an operational plan here. So I just want to share with the group just sort of the process and where we're going, here with this, so that makes sense to folks. So what I'm going to do, with your permission, board members, we could do a couple of things. Sort of my lesson plan was to walk you through some key issues, give you a little bit of an idea, kind of draft in public what we're thinking, and then pause on those key issues and just see what questions you have. And certainly, if there's someone who can't hear my voice, please just let me know. I'll kind of use my principal voice from those days. First and foremost, I really encourage all the board members. Last year, you adopted a set of principles: safety, equity, learning, flexibility, and communication. And just breaking that down, you made a commitment to have the highest level of safety possible. You felt that was important. I always say my job is easy: keep kids safe, help kids learn. Equity. We knew that students would lack access to the most valuable asset we have, our teachers. And we defined equity as creating pathways to our teachers and to each other, because that's so important in high school. Learning. We have to do things last year, there were times when school was not in this building or at Central, but school was happening and doing everything possible to keep learning going. And then flexibility. We know that the situation requires flexibility. Gosh, we would all in this room love to have a crystal ball and know exactly what is ahead of us. But as many people have said in different ways, there's unknowns. And we have to be ready to greet those unknowns and have a plan that's flexible enough to meet those unknowns. students. And then finally, communication. We're doing that right now. In whatever we do, be transparent about it. And, you know, no secrets here. There's no need for that because the best thinking comes from that transparency. So just in particular with the CDC and IDPH guidelines, I would share with you, I think there are 3 things I've pulled from them in the past week and all the conversations that we've had, which have been many, to do our homework. One, it endorses a return to school, and it acknowledges the importance of full-time school, which we did for the last about 9 weeks of last school year. It also acknowledges that health and safety is not solely the responsibility of the school district. Not a new concept in what we do in schools. It's a home-school partnership. That's been true whenever there's been a place called school, that we have to rely on the home, and the home has to rely on us, and it's a relationship. And then it outlines the impact of new mitigations. So new mitigations have arrived. However you view those new mitigations, we have COVID-19 vaccines are on the scene. We have lessons learned from the pandemic. Last year we had 3,189 individual tracked cases of either close contact, COVID positive, or COVID-like symptoms. So here in our own house, we have a very rich database of what happened and what we saw. And in particular, it outlines if a student is vaccinated, the paths in school for a vaccinated student, a path for the student who is unvaccinated, and what those differences are for contact tracing and quarantine. So those are some of the big deductions that I've made about what this suggests. So let's jump right into it. Vaccination and masking, a lot of talk. I don't need to repeat. You know, I think our public speakers have really laid the groundwork. There are really a couple of roads that the board could take. The board could require universal masking from the get-go. Use universal masking when you believe it's appropriate. Today, sat with some superintendents, some districts are requiring universal masking as they start. Other high school districts are starting with an honor system. Which is, you know, you can see the honor system right outside in the hallway. The CDC and IDPH recommendations: if you're vaccinated, you need not wear a mask, but you're more than welcome to. If you're unmasked, if you're unvaccinated, then in a situation like this, where you might not be able to socially distance, physically distance, you should wear a mask, right? So an honor system that acknowledges that. There is a middle road that a number of our speakers mentioned, which would be creating some kind of system for 4,000 students that identifies the vaccinated, identifies the unvaccinated, and then requires the unvaccinated to wear a mask. And we spent a lot of time talking about that, and we just can't imagine how that system, and I don't know a district, a high school district, that is imagining that system. It just doesn't seem possible in a large public high school district like ours. So really we're seeing that there are 2 options. So let me just pause there and answer some questions from board members, kind of the options before you. Parents always assume risks. Some parents in here, like myself, made the decision that their child was going to drive a car. And so when Bob and Katie McBride did that, we assumed risk. We knew the risk and the reward of that process, and we've experienced both. You know, one of the things that we have to do is educate parents when parents on this issue of masking and vaccination make decisions. What are the risks in either case that you might take on in a school setting? So let me just pause there and see what board members are thinking.
When you're discussing, either wear a mask or don't wear no mask, whatever we decide. Are you saying that across the board? So whether or not the kid's the quarterback on the football team, he's on the chess team, if he's on this campus and we decide masking is optional. If anybody that wants a mask can wear a mask. If we decide, anyone else they don't have to. Is it across the board, no matter what they do? I know busing's an issue because it's, and
yeah, busing's a different situation. There are some programs, Mr. Ives, that we have that students are in very close contact, and almost all the students in the program are medically fragile. That might be a situation, a program, that would require masking.
So program specific.
Program specific, but campus wide,
Right.
you know, building wide. If you went with more of an honor system, that you know make a family decision about vaccination,
Right.
make a family decision about masking. Our campus, a little bit later, we mentioned this through the good work of Bill Thompson. We are able to maintain 3-foot distancing everywhere. So in all classrooms, all lunch settings. Kind of coming back a little bit later, there's a link there too to surveillance testing. If you partner surveillance testing, you can use 3 feet, and also 3 feet is your close contact. So that athlete or whoever that is kind of moving about campus, making the right decision for her or him with parental guidance.
So we're letting them be consistent, because it's like, you know, we don't want to change it here and there. It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do, and you can be consistent, and the kids can just, I don't want to say relax, but they can, it's a little easier. Okay.
And what you're seeing, I think, with a lot of high school districts are either, you know, some districts like Evanston, Glenbrook, 235, I think, that's Glenbrook North and South. There's another really, Evanston, I mentioned. There's another really, Niles, Leiden. They're starting with sort of what they're calling a safe start, universal masking for the first couple of weeks. Or other districts are starting with a mask honor system and using masks, universal masking, as a mitigation to keep students in school. If somehow, you know, things don't go in the direction you would hope, you might have a line of like masking, then hybrid, then remote. But gosh, you know, we hope that we never go back to any of those things, right?
I think Luann had a question.
Yeah, Luann.
So if we go with the no mask, do we have to do this 6 feet?
If we are not, if we're not wearing, if we go with sort of an honor system,
Yeah, honestly.
right, we can maintain 3 feet
Okay.
as our physical distancing in all settings,
Okay.
and maintain that as what we call close contact.
Okay.
If we have a surveillance testing program. So that's one benefit of doing surveillance testing. With that high sensitivity of understanding how much COVID might be in the student body, we're able to do that. You might recall that was very challenging last year because the regulation was that it was 6 feet, so we had to keep students 6 feet apart.
Right.
And that was, it was impossible to keep students 6 feet apart and do full in-person learning. So when we went to full in-person learning, we had to go to 3, knowing that we would have a high volume of quarantine, which did play itself out. That's really very different now.
So we would have to potentially test all the kids or just certain kids?
No.
So, for example, Dr. McBride, you and I are sitting next to each other in a class. We're
Right.
sitting 3 feet apart, we're on
Right.
the honor system, neither one of us has a mask on.
Right.
I come down with COVID-19, what happens?
So if you contract COVID-19, right, the first thing that we would try to ascertain is the people 3 feet around you, right? Are they vaccinated or they're not vaccinated? If they're vaccinated, that's a close contact. They don't need to quarantine. If they are unvaccinated and not wearing a mask, they have to quarantine for a 14-day quarantine. Now, the hope is, for example, with shield testing, that shield testing can pick up COVID viral load within 2 to 3 days. And once that happens with shield testing, then we can get a negative or a positive that can work us back into the classroom less than 14 days. So that's an advantage, you know, of having, it's quicker, its results are quicker, more accurate than most tests. You know, it was driven around last year at University of Illinois, so it's got a pretty deep research basis behind it. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do to mitigate that experience, right?
To prevent the quarantine.
Right, exactly. Because quarantine was very interruptive last year.
A little.
Yeah, just a little, you know. In the last 9 weeks, of class, you know, we were quarantined 5 to 7% of our students. Now, those quarantine regulations are different, but there still is a close contact and quarantine protocol. just kind of wait for board members and then move on to, any other feelings about, I would hope you
I
would
have
join.
thoughts, I don't have feelings.
Yeah. I would hope you would join us.
Would you like to share those thoughts?
Yeah, I would hope you would join us in not picking, a middle option, right? A middle option of requiring it, for unvaccinated, not requiring it for vaccinated. We just don't feel administratively that's tentative for us.
I don't think we would even be able to accurately monitor that because people can just lie. I think.
Well, there's a lot of complications
Yeah.
in a situation.
I haven't seen a study that show that masks do anything for this virus, because based on the size of the virus, I know it's by airborne, and the masks, even the best designed masks, are failable when it comes to that. So I say we do not require masks at all for anyone unless they choose to wear them by themselves.
Yeah, and I don't know if other board members have, feelings, what, things you want to.
Do you have thoughts? I don't care about your feelings.
Thanks,
I
Michael.
feel cold
So
right
you
now.
feel the same way on buses too?
I feel nothing on buses. I feel nothing. I have thoughts. Thoughts on buses. It's the same thing.
I hope he never insults me.
It's the same thing. Why is one place different than another
Probably as
place?
board members, you might want to.
They're all the same places.
I'm never going to take that
I don't blame
in public.
you. I know. Buses, are we required?
Yeah, we are required a little bit more with, just in sort of my report. And let's just jump to that because we can. This is where I also think we just have to have an understanding. We cannot cherry pick these regulations. And this is one area that's very clear. This is a must. This is not a should. And with transportation, any kind of transportation that the school conducts, at least under these current guidelines, it is a must. So all students, bus drivers, everyone must face mask. So that is a requirement. So that's really asked and answered, both from a legal and from a liability point of view.
And what is it, about 35 or 40% of our kids take the bus? Is that right? I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I
it
may be wrong
tipped
on
down
that.
to about 28% last
Alright.
year. Fewer kids did, but I would say it would tick up to about 35 to 40%.
Okay.
That'd be about right.
And we talked, the way I've read the regulation is transportation, that would include driver's ed. Correct?
It does include driver's ed.
Right.
Right. And that's what I think we're going to have to really understand. I would just say to everyone here, we can't say that we like choice over here, but we don't like choice over there.
Okay, so we can all agree on no masks.
We can't cherry pick.
We're not voting today.
No.
Yeah, we're not voting. Yeah.
When are we voting then?
You're going to vote, probably, you're going to have to vote, Mr. Navarro, before school starts. So the latest you could vote is August 16th.
Because that's also our next board meeting.
Right.
And you can't wait that long.
So we'll be kind of taking your feedback and working on that, right? There's also a lot of time to go before school starts because there's still quite a bit of time. Who knows where things are going?
Based off of our discussion today, the administration is going to take what we discussed, put it into policy for us to vote on.
Right.
That will be before school. And that will-
Also in these guidelines, there is a table the CDC has released that creates describes the conditions for optional masking, sort of honor system, vaccinated unmasked, unvaccinated masked, full universal masking, and then, into remote, hybrid, those kind of things.
What's the difference between the optional and honor system?
I was going to ask you the same question.
Yeah,
It's all nonsense.
You gotta be careful.
Yeah, I tend to call it honor system because I think we should act with honor. And what I mean by that, Mr. Navarra, is that we should act with a consciousness. I can't read into people's minds. But we should ask with a consciousness of, will my actions and what I do cause school to close? And what I would say is there are people on many sides. There are people on many sides. There are people on many sides whose consideration is only of their own opinion. But our consideration is kids deserve school. And the last thing that I would recommend to you, that you do as a board, is to make any kind of decision or take any kind of action that's going to impeach the opportunity for kids to go to school. You know, that's a dilemma, right? And that's a dilemma that you have to face. What I would really encourage you is layers of mitigation. Has been what's worked. And I don't know about studies. I'm not a medical doctor, but I do know that we have 3,189 cases. I would disagree with you, Mr. Lewandowski. Last year, we had kids in school who were masked. We had not one single masked incident of COVID out of 3,189 cases. And masking was the definitive mitigation. That's not an advocating for the start of the year, but it is putting fact right here in our hallway, sir. And so I think that's something that we should really consider.
Wait, how can you say that masks was the definitive thing when you were also doing
It was
social
the
distancing?
consistent. It was the most consistent thing. So, for example, we weren't able to socially distance in hallways, Mr. Navarro. I mean, it's just not possible with the volume of kids we have at our school, right? So these are kind of weighty things for you guys to consider, right?
And I also like the fact that you mentioned the partnership, and I think that COVID, if anything, has taught us, like, if your child is not feeling well, probably not best to send them to school.
Exactly.
And that would prevent a lot of things.
That would prevent so many things, right? If our kids are sick, let's just not send them to school.
Because I can give you an example, sitting in my own office at work where I had a student come down, did not want to go home, they were not feeling well, they had a temperature and a fever. They wanted perfect attendance when that was a thing. And then I ended up with strep throat and was out of work. So simply
Right.
because she wanted to come to school. So I think that that's an added partnership, like we
Right.
talked about with the parents. If someone's not feeling well, keep them home.
Exactly.
Right, that's going to be a huge part. You know, for any student, vaccinated, unvaccinated, is staying home if you are sick, right? That's going to be huge. So we really have two choices that we're going to be weighing and we're going to be talking about and we're going to be polling and we're going to talk to our staff about. And that is, you know, starting the year with some high school districts are doing with some kind of universal masking, you know, safe start, or really saying, listen, families assume risks. You know, those who got vaccinated assumed a risk. Those who were unvaccinated assume risks. People who wear a mask or don't wear masks should simply with honor know what they're getting themselves into and what they might be getting other people into and what the consequences and repercussions of that could be. And go into that, you know, fully knowledgeable, right?
But understanding that there are consequences to those choices.
There are consequences because
There are always consequences to our choices.
Absolutely.
Right,
Butterfly
right.
effect, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
right. A couple of other things, social distancing. As I mentioned, we're able to stage all of our facilities with 3 feet of separation. And what really helps under these guidelines is that 3 feet is the close contact distance, not 6 feet. So that allows us really to return to normal operations in every single area that that we're in.
Are we gonna get back to normalcy in lunch and all that stuff?
In lunch, we have to do 3 foot of separation. We are still doing very similar kind of food service we did last year.
Okay.
Because what that allows is a free lunch for every student.
Okay.
And that reduces money changing, long lines,
That's fine.
those kind of things. COVID-19 screening, we talked a little bit about transportation, maybe stop on this for a few minutes. Of course, no student under 18, you have to have parental consent to do any kind of medical test, right? Of course, just like vaccination. But under these guidelines, surveillance testing allows us to be at 3 feet, and it significantly will reduce quarantine. It also will give us a real sense. One of the things we learned last year was that in the adult community, the metrics in the adult community were not always true in the student community. And so it would give us a complete idea of exactly what our COVID level is. It also would give both vaccinated and unvaccinated students an opportunity, if they have close contact, they become symptomatic, to either rule in or rule out COVID, one way or the other. So it gives us a huge advantage in terms of operations and in terms of just knowing and reducing quarantine. I would recommend that we start out, that if you start out with an honor system, I would recommend that we start out asking everyone to shield test. Right now, the current conditions in Homer Glen and Lockport would suggest that we do that once a week. And as those conditions improve, you obviously are surveillance testing less. All right? Okay. So that would be what I would recommend to the board, is asking people to sign on for universal consent. We have about 250 students in the pilot right now. We were somewhat surprised vaccinated parents could opt out. We were surprised to how many opted in who wanted just to rule COVID out, because there is an understanding that even if you're vaccinated, you might get COVID. And so people wanted to rule that out. So that participation is going right now. That would be one thing, and just some feedback from board members on shield testing.
Is that test study going well?
It is so far, you know. I mean, it went well for me, I can tell you that. And you know, it was very, we were amazed at the efficiency. I think we did about 150 football players in about 15 minutes. So not interruptive, very easy to do, quick, you know. It's a nice sort of balance. Adding that mitigation, maybe backing away from masks, is really what most of the legal advisement is, that you as a board, if you pull away from one mitigation, to put another in its place. So yeah, Mr. Navarro.
Do we have, is the testing's on site, right, just to clarify?
It is on site, and
Okay.
it's free to the district, free to the students, and it is shielded
Do they
Illinois
take
staff.
it during their lunch period, or did they take it
We
whenever?
would likely have to do it during PE, because that's really the only time during the day that we have all of our students together, you know, in one class that every student has to take. So likely do it during
They
PE.
all have study hall too, don't they? They all have a lunch.
No, well, they all have a lunch, but then we'd be interrupting their lunch, and so we'd hate to sort of take away lunch from students, right? So my recommendation would be that we try to enroll for universal screening, and obviously that has to be consent, right? There has to be parental consent provided.
You also
But
need to get the students' consent.
right, but again, kind of risks, right? So you're a vaccinated student, right? You say, I'm going to opt out of shield testing. You get a cold. You now have COVID-like symptoms. We're going to have to put you on the quarantine protocol.
If you're vaccinated?
If you're vaccinated, because you're symptomatic, right? And COVID-vaccinated people can get colds, or the flu, or norovirus, or rhinovirus, or all these other fun things we're going to see there. You're unvaccinated. You don't have a mask. You refuse shield testing. We're going to have to put you on the quarantine, and we don't have a way to get you back in earlier than 14 days. So I distinctly believe that it provides the vaccinated parent, the unvaccinated parent, the person who wants to wear a mask, the person who doesn't want to wear a mask, a very simple option to keep the community safe, rule out COVID, allow us to sit 3 feet apart. It allows all those things.
And just for clarification, as far as what shield testing is, it is not a nasal swab.
It is not a nasal swab. It's a, I don't know how big, but it's about that much, in a very narrow test tube of saliva. And I don't know if there's any
So
board
if we
questions
don't have
on
the
that.
if we don't have the shield testing, does that mean we have to go to 6 feet?
If we do not have shield testing, we do have to go to 6 feet
To
in
6
lunch
feet.
settings, and we have to go to 6 feet. We can't do all in classrooms at 6 feet.
No, I understand that. We don't have.
So we
don't
would
have
be
space.
within 3 feet, and then our quarantine range would be the 6 feet.
Okay.
So shield testing, doing that kind of surveillance, allows us to narrow the close contact.
And bring all the kids back.
Right.
And
I mean, we have to bring them all back.
Yep.
No matter what, that's going to happen. No matter what.
I
whether,
agree.
You know, whatever your definition of close contact is.
Yep. Okay.
So
Yeah,
have we
Mr.
not-
Navarro.
Have we not considered other mitigations like those HEPA filters?
Yeah, we
Or-
will do all the mitigations. Like we will do for sure physically distancing, shield testing, ventilation, cleaning, hand sanitizing. If you go more with honor system, we'll provide people with a mask if they forgot it or they become uncomfortable or they want one. All that kind of good work, right, would continue on, right? The advisement we've gotten on the legal side of things and on the liability side of things is that if you're taking mitigations away, take them away one at a time, right? You would never pull all of them away all at once, if that makes sense. So for example, if the feeling of the board was, let's start with honor system, you know, decide if you're gonna vaccinate or unvaccinated, decide if your child's gonna mask or not mask, right? So changing that mitigation, the advisement, which I think is wise advisement, is add another mitigation in that helps with that, shield testing. But don't diminish those other mitigations that are really important, right? Keep those in place because those have served us very, very well. So.
I'd like to explore also like ventilation, because I think ventilation would also, a lot of the argument is that, oh, how are you, you know, the flu and colds are still a thing. By having proper ventilation, you could also be targeting both the flu and colds.
Right.
It
And
would
so
end up
last,
virtually
yeah.
destroying,
Yeah.
you know, it would not only be effective for COVID, but also other diseases that could be spread from person to person.
Yeah, and we have all that already from
Already
last
doing it.
year.
From last year.
And for example, we're working, you might remember from the last board meeting, we're gonna do a pretty massive, low expense because of a grant from ComEd, replacement of our chiller. Our 900-ton chiller. So, like for example, right now our dampers are all open up to 100%, and all of our filters are the highest. They're called MERV filters, not HEPA filters, at the industrial level. So those are already in place from last year. And then we do weekly air quality testing on every space to measure how much airflow is actually going through the room.
So there will be a helicopter in Lockport at that time.
Or a boom crane.
The only way you're gonna get it up there.
Yeah, or you can use a boom crane. You know, one way or the other. Yeah. And I don't want to move too quick. You know, vaccination records. We are authorized to collect vaccination records. The state will give us access to the iCare system. But what we would advise to parents, if you're vaccinated, when you're at Welcome Back Days and you're at freshman orientation, we'd advise bring your vaccination record simply for your convenience. If we have a close contact situation like what you described, Dr. Shaw, and we have to take a look at students involved, if we see a vaccination record, then we won't be calling you to come and get your child and start the quarantine protocol, right? But if we don't have that, we have to assume that, and your child might be vaccinated, you have to come, get that child, it could be a serious inconvenience for you. So just like anything, we always recommend have your vaccinations, you know, on file.
Can they submit them like they do their annual, you know, like their physicals and stuff like that?
Yeah, we would ask people to submit that.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And that's primarily for convenience.
It'd make it easier.
You
for
know,
them,
it's
that's
just to be easier.
Yep.
Right? Liability issues, you know, as I mentioned, you know, the CDC and IDPH guidance indicates the importance for school districts to use layered mitigation approaches. And we have lots of layers in place, right? You know, the ones that I don't think many people are as contentious as masks are physical distancing, hand sanitation, cleaning for health, ventilation, COVID screening, testing, contact tracing, quarantine. It seems to me the one that requires the most decision-making is how do you start the school year? Do you start it with the universal mask requirement? Do you start it with an honor system? The liability question people, ask, and there was one individual who mentioned that, people ask, well, what would our liability would be? I think this board would be liable for an outbreak or damage done by an outbreak if you suddenly took all of those mitigations away. Or you took a mitigation away knowing that you had a dangerous situation. That would be the definition of willful and wanton, right? But all things being equal, when you look at your community metrics, I think you have surveillance testing, which could provide you with a tremendous amount of information. You say we have all this information at our disposal, we might pull one mitigation away, add another mitigation. You've made a responsible decision, and you've had meetings like this where you've been in front of the public, and it's a measured response. You've thought it through. It's not just something you decided capriciously. So liability is a little bit different this year because what you want to be able to say is we had layers of mitigation in place, multiple layers. So here are just a few points that that we're working on. Here are the keys with these guidance. The guidance is really saying high school students should get vaccinated to provide the best protection against COVID-19 and reduce spread. The guidance, and should is an important word, has been mentioned earlier. That's a recommendation. Unvaccinated students should wear a face mask at school. Parents should determine vaccination status and understand the risks they assume. If they vaccinate or they don't vaccinate their children, or choose to wear a mask or don't choose to wear a mask at school. Will, no matter what, maintain several layers of mitigation, no matter what. We believe in our planning that screening testing, we would offer to this board that screening testing can be a critical safety precaution, critical to getting kids to avoid quarantine, and that we should be ready. We just have to be flexible and ready. We don't know what is ahead. I'm glad I'm not running the Tokyo Olympics. We don't know what's ahead, but we should always maintain our readiness to use all the tools at our disposal. I hope tools like hybrid learning and remote learning are far beyond us and far behind us.
Agree.
Any other questions from board members, or we'll get to work.
Costs associated with the shield testing versus if we were to do the filtration system?
It's free.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't
free.
cost us anything.
Yeah, there's no
Providing it.
IDPH,
It's payer money.
right. Illinois Department of Public Health,
Yeah, that's our money.
right. Primarily through federal ESSER funds.
Right.
So it's primarily federal money.
It's not a cost to the school district.
Right, nor is it a cost to individual students. So what we'll be doing is, and for members of the public, we'll be working over the next month, working, around these principles, kind of bringing you, like we did last year. You might recall what we did last year is, rather than voting on every mitigation, we voted on a whole set of tools to use in order to start and get the school year going. Questions, things that you have to ask. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to doing the work.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Next, we have our maintenance report.
Got it. Lots going on, as I mentioned. Bill Thompson, I believe, is here, but as you can see, main points, just a lot of maintenance on Central is happening. The media center, IT going really well. It's still a hard hat area. And so I'm looking forward to touring you at some point through that.
Yeah.
Structural repairs at Central going great. Taking a look at some of our air conditioning there, mentioned with ventilation. Remodeling work, a number of different areas we're remodeling in Central. The nurse's office we're remodeling to make it more spacious. That's going well. Seal coating, you have probably seen the
Everywhere.
everywhere seal coating.
Every day the buses are in a different spot.
Yeah, it's just so important. There's guardrail that we're putting up at East Campus just to protect, there at Farrell and 7th, when we have kids on that marching band field, that guardrail is happening. Tennis courts, updating the cafeteria here with new lighting and with charging points for ports for Chromebooks and new flooring. So that's all happening. It's all happening. Questions about the maintenance report?
Yep. Good
All right.
job as usual.
That's capital project expenditure and interfund transfer summaries. Looking at that, we see that, yes, there's been a lot of construction going on. You see a lot of those transfers coming in and out, so thank you. All right, there's no closed session needed, and then we have those announcements there. Let's see, upcoming dates. And then I think you did mention, I don't know if you.
Yeah, just upcoming dates. Next regular board meeting, August 16th. Return to school events, freshman orientation, August 3rd, 4th. Welcome back days, 5th and 6th. New teachers, we are going to have new teachers, August 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And then our Return to School Institute days, August 12th, 13th, first day of school, August 16th.
Yep. Yeah, so our board meeting's the first day of school.
It is indeed.
It is indeed. Okay.
Okay, is it my turn?
No, sorry, Michael, wait.
Yeah, and just, right, and just a reminder, the board retreat on August 7th, just an announcement. Been very generous, the Holiday Inn Express right here has been very generous with us. They've donated to the foundation. They have a great meeting room, it's brand new. So on August 7th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., we would do our board retreat. Jeff Kahn is going to be our facilitator, and then you might recall in your board update on Friday kind of outlined some of the things. Jeff really engaging with us on sort of board operations and how moving forward you really want to conduct your business, right?
Yep.
And you all know Jeff.
We do.
We do. All right.
And, finally, happy birthday to Ann Kaniva, coming up this week. Happy birthday to Veronica Shaw, and happy birthday to Michael Lewandowski coming up this week. We have 3 board members having birthdays this week.
Happy birthday, ladies.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Michael.
birthday to you,
Happy
Mike.
to be 30 again.
I know.
Yeah.
Happy to be 30?
Yep, again.
You finally got there?
All right, just need then a motion to.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned by Mr. Lewandowski and second by Mr. Ives. All in favor?
Aye.